Hello, welcome to 70 Years, 70 Muppets, More Muppets Please, a Muppet fan podcast presented by ToughPig.com. This is the podcast where we celebrate the Muppets' 70th anniversary with a series of spotlights on our favorite Muppet characters, from fan favorites to the most obscure. I am this week's host, Cameron Garrity, and the Muppet of the Week is Waldo, performed by Steve Whitmire and designed by Kirk Thatcher, making their world debut in 1989. Today, we have a wonderful guest, a MuppetVision expert, and a good friend, Matthew Soberman. Matthew, welcome back to the show.
Hey, I'll be with you in a sec. I just have to move all the way down to the end of the row so that all other guests can get in.
I assume
Okay, I
that's
got my
a
3D
park
glasses.
joke.
I'm ready to go.
Great. You're all queued up. You watched the pre-show.
Yep. Boy,
Love it.
Gonzo with the flower pot on that head. You can't beat that.
Absolutely. Absolutely not. Well, Matt, thanks for joining me. I want to kind of do something a little silly today because I grew up not going to theme parks and seeing shows like Muppet Vision 3D, but I did read Where's Waldo? And so I thought we would start with some nice W questions. Who is Waldo?
Well, Waldo is the spirit of 3D, at least in Muppet Vision. He was created in 1989 for the Jim Henson Hour, as you mentioned. Waldo is sort of this marriage of Jim Henson's love of puppetry and technology. It really does feel like the next form. It's an early form of motion capture where Steve Whitmire would perform on a rig, which you can see at the Museum of the Moving Image in
Mhm.
Astoria, New York, as of the recording of this podcast. And it really feels like Jim trying to evolve the art form of puppetry by merging it with the computer age and finding a new way to create a character where it can do things that a physical puppet can't.
Yeah, and to me it's a very nice natural extension of the silliness of the Muppets. Like
Yes.
this guy is doing things that like Fozzie Bear could do if he was not limited by being a physical object in many
Yeah.
ways. Especially because Waldo is, such a clown-like character. But who so you mentioned Waldo being a character in Muppet Vision 3D, you being sort of our one of our resident experts on that show, how do you think the park community and just fans of that attraction know Waldo? Because I think a majority of the people who've seen Muppet Vision 3D probably have not seen the Jim Henson Hour, so don't really
That's
understand or know him from
that is
that.
fair.
And you don't
Waldo's
need to.
legacy is primarily through Muppet Vision.
Yeah. But so have you talked to people who have been to that attraction and are kind of like, what? What was that thing? Because it's not like it was Mr. Curly Twirly or a
Mm.
Frackle or a character that we kind of know and understand as a Muppet of sorts. Like it really does feel like a feature of the attraction. Do you have
Well,
any sense
it's
of?
funny you mention that
Yeah,
because a few years ago when Walt Disney World turned 50, they did a lot of merchandising about the characters native to the parks. And for some reason, when they got around to Hollywood Studios, it was, Star Wars, a little Toy Story, and Waldo. And of course, the way it was set up, Waldo was kind of deemed this park's original character when in fact Waldo was not original to the park. So it is a fun little thing where it's like, "Oh, Waldo didn't start at Muppet Vision." And people are, when you tell people about the Jim Henson Hour, they are curious.
sure.
They may be familiar with the storyteller, so it's not like it's completely out of the blue. But it definitely feels like, a show that ran in a theme park in one of the most visited places in the world for 34 years versus a show that ran one summer and with
Exactly.
episodes occasionally debuting in syndication. In fact, that
Yes,
one of my favorite Waldo things is actually from the Secrets of the Muppets episode of the
me
Jim
too.
Henson Hour.
Me too.
One of the most underrated Muppet things ever, that episode.
Absolutely. And I do think that that is a not only is that whole special really wonderful, to me, that is also one of my favorite segments of that special because I think you really do get to see Jim being truly at the cutting edge of technology, which I think,
Yeah.
well, us fans know him as that and as someone who is obsessed with what, pushing technical limits to their beyond what was thought capable at the time. It
And
was
Jim was
really cool to see him
it
playing
was an
around with
early
that.
progenitor of computer animation. I mean, Labyrinth opens with a CGI owl. And
Absolutely.
for 1986, that was huge.
Yeah, it was the first computer generated animal in a feature length film, I believe. Um, but this is a nice segue to what is Waldo, and I think two things that I kind of wanted to, and I did a little research on this as well, but I think a lot of people know about the Waldo glove that is used.
Mhm.
But I was surprised that that actually predates even the Muppet world. Were you aware of
It
this?
doesn't. I can't say I was, but it does seem believable
Yeah, well, I okay,
because they were working with another studio, right? Pacific Data Images.
so they were working with Pacific Data Images, but the Waldo itself was actually, and I can't take any credit for this. This is I'm reading right from the Muppet Wiki right now, but the term Waldo comes from a 1942 novella from the science fiction author Robert Heinlein. And it was there was a novella where there was a character named Waldo, and as a tribute to him when NASA engineers were developing this kind of robotics radio signal glove. They named it after that. But so when Fozfazacus was bringing that technology into the Muppet world for things as early as like Emmett Otter in the
And
rowboat,
most prominently, Fraggle Rock for
of
the heads of the
course,
Gorgs.
of course. So then it just becomes this nice send up. But you mentioned Pacific Data Imaging. Do you know a little bit about that, or can you speak to any of that?
I can't say I know too much about them. I know I recognize their name even before I saw Secrets of the Muppets as a special effects house.
Yeah, and then they apparently later became DreamWorks Animation,
Ah,
which was sort of a nice little another little bit of animation history. I'd love to know your thoughts too.
so for a
I'm
while you
I'm
could
a
see a little bit of DreamWorks in a Disney park.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, and it is funny too because you talking about animation history again. This character like so reminds me, and I'm sure it had to do with the technical limitations at the time, but of characters like you would see in those old Pixar shorts, like The Adventures of Andre and Wally B. It just has that sort of geometric
Yes.
plasticine
And I
look.
mean, yes, in hindsight, it does look early, and certainly the technology has gotten more sophisticated in 35, 36 years. Obviously, the technology has gotten better, but
Sure.
really, it is very unique how well that animation held up for as long as it did.
Oh,
Like,
absolutely. And I also think
it
um
doesn't feel rudimentary, which,
no,
a lot of.
I maybe used an incorrect word there when I said primitive. I didn't mean that in any to knock it. I think
No,
they worked well
no, but
within the technical
obviously,
limitations of the time. The same way that like Toy Story, the first one, you're not like now we look back and think like, oh, that looks a little like something from the 90s. But I
yeah.
don't think it but yeah, they're not trying to swing out of their weight class,
No, they're
so to
not
speak.
punching above their weight class.
There we go. Thank you.
Um, that is true, but I will say, I kind of view Waldo. I don't like I view like the CGI T-Rex in Jurassic Park, where it's like
Hmm.
it has a really good depth to it. I think it fits the setting of Muppet Vision. It fit the setting of the Jim Henson Hour, and I think the animation got better from the Jim Henson Hour to Muppet Vision.
Yes.
I
Yeah,
think
there's
maybe
a
because they knew they were working on film versus television camera.
Right. I have wondered that too because looking at there was a very helpful YouTube video that I watched in preparation for this. It's about 13 minutes long, and it's all of the segments that Waldo appears in,
Mm,
and it is unmistakable the jump up in resolution
mm.
and just even in the animation itself, it's a little smoother and more charming to look at when it made the translation to the big screen. Can you talk a little bit, and maybe this gets now into the how's Waldo of it all, but as a fan and as someone who, you know, would sit in that Muppet, that real life Muppet
Mm.
theater, how was that experience? Do you feel like how was he integrated into the 3D world? Did him being a 3D generated character make him feel more able to kind of push
Well,
the
I think
3D
the
boundaries?
I think definitely Waldo really allowed Jim to, embrace the 3D medium. I mean, let's be honest, it's still talked about all these everyone thinks I'm talking to them, but I'm really talking to you. And it works perfectly no matter where you sat in
Yes.
the theater.
Yep.
So seeing that, I think the character was a good foil. I think it was allowed to, really play with the 3D medium. But he's also a great foil to the Muppets. Adds that extra bit of anarchy that gets us to the big finale where everything goes haywire. Whereas otherwise, it would be good, but it wouldn't quite be as zany.
Yes.
So I
Totally.
think that really helps. And again, the resolution just made it so believable.
Totally.
So yeah, it was impressive to see in the theater every time.
Yeah, and so speaking of every time, I believe because I re-listened to your episode on moving right along, which I believe is still the most listened to episode of
Oh,
moving right along.
I think we can break that right here and now. You and me,
Let's do
Cam.
it. You mentioned that when I forget what year that they redid some of the projections, and were they able to make
It was
Waldo?
relatively recent. Like they were really giving Muppet Vision the high class treatment up until the end.
Yeah. So can you talk about how the Waldo experience evolved over with that upgrade? Because
Well,
wasn't there
I
more
mean,
projection done with him,
I'm trying to remember
or
exactly
is that
what it
not right?
was. No, I think they definitely upped the projection. I don't know if it was they just expanded it rather than, having Waldo here and there. It was he would overtake the theater, I think, especially when the Swedish chef blows him up with the blunt, with the cannon, and he's going around all over the place. It's another example of Disney, bumping the lamp, if you know the term in animation. It's
I
just
do.
if we
Do you
add
mind
that
explaining
little
that though? Because
I
I
will explain that. So that
please.
came, I believe, from the making of Who Framed Roger Rabbit,
Hmm.
where obviously the challenges of animating a character into a live action world, Roger would occasionally interact with things, and those things had to be animated for it to work. So at some point, I think there was a lamp and it was swinging, and someone forgot to animate the shadow, and they went back and they said, we have to animate the shadow. Otherwise, it doesn't, we lose that sense of reality. So Disney, with those later upgrades, the upgrade to digital projection, the enhanced effects, always helped to make it just, you thought you were in the Muppets world, but now it feels even realer, which was always a treat.
Yeah,
And it made me that attraction was well cared for up until the end.
definitely. And I think, you know, obviously we exist in a little bit of an echo chamber when it comes to Muppet commentary
Yes.
and news and such, but I still feel like there is still so much love for Muppet Vision
Oh,
3D,
of course. And
and
I
that will
believe
always be
I
there.
truly believe that the love for Muppet Vision 3D is what influenced them to move the Muppets to Rock and Roller Coaster,
Yeah,
because I don't think people could imagine that park without the Muppets in some form.
right. I
And now we've got a roller coaster, we got a food stand. The Swedish chef is finally getting his due, and I think we have Waldo to thank.
I think so too. Well, this brings me to something that is a little bit of a silly question, but I'd love your input on in terms of when is Waldo? Obviously, he was very much of a time, of an era of animation and of television and filmmaking. He did have a cameo in the 2011 Muppet Babies, just
Yes.
as a keychain. It was very much an Easter egg for the fans, which they
Yes. I
loved
think that
doing
was
on
the
that.
2018 Muppet Babies, just to
Yes,
be sure.
yes.
Yeah, no, I think,
Oh, did I say
again,
2011? Sorry.
yes.
Yes,
Again,
I
another Muppet reboot in 2011.
no, I'm
Different
sorry.
Muppet reboot.
It was the Vinylmation figures that was 2011.
Yes.
I misread my
But yeah,
notes.
it
But
just goes
yes,
to show that, Waldo is inextricably linked to Muppet Vision, and that is such a beloved part of Muppet history. I mean, it's the last thing Jim worked on. It's the last time it's all the original performers together. It does mark the end of an era, and it's beautiful that it lasted as long as it did.
I agree with that, and that's why I wanted to ask you in terms of this question of when is Waldo? Do you think that he as we see things come back like the Muppet Show, do you think there's a place for him in the future of the Muppets, or would you rather see him sort of be a chapter that has
Well,
come and
if
gone?
that Muppet Show special taught me anything, it's that anybody can come back,
Hmm.
which I think is so
Even the
exciting.
armadillo
The armadillo, who is absolutely canon,
can
but like
confirm.
even just Hilda
Yes,
coming back, it's just, I think that there could be a place for Waldo. I mean, obviously, I think the tech would be better now, and
right.
I'm curious to see how that would look. I don't think you could necessarily play it off unless that is the gag, is that he's stuck in 1989.
Which, to be fair, I think a lot of the Muppets are still kind of stuck there or would like to be stuck there. So it could work. Could work.
I think it would certainly play into the nostalgia factor if I were reincorporating Waldo. One of those long lost Muppets that they forgot about in a trunk, and he
Yeah.
comes out, "Hey, did you guys hear they're tearing down the Berlin Wall?"
Oh my gosh. I mean, this really calls into question why they even made 80s Robot for the 2011 movie. They should have just had it be Waldo living in the mansion with Kermit.
That is true, but I think people kind of still saw Waldo as current through Muppet Vision. It's
Very,
like, hey,
very
it's
true.
that.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Whereas
Yes.
80s Robot, it's like it comes literally it's spoofing Rocky 4 with the
Very true.
robot butler that Rocky gives Paulie. Yeah, I think 80s Robot was right for the Muppets 2011, just as I think Waldo could work now.
Well,
As
I
as
you heard it here first, folks. I think the campaign starts today to bring Waldo back into the Muppet core
in
cast of
whatever
characters.
form they are. And hey,
Yeah.
we're recording this on May 15th. The attraction is in previews now. The Rock
Hmm.
and Roller Coaster is in previews now. Waldo could be showing up. I wouldn't be surprised.
I was going to ask you
Look,
about
we
that
knew he
too. If
wanted
you
to get
thought,
out of that theater.
yes, he comes back. I'm sure most roller coasters have a fireworks finale, right? So just
If it's a
we need
Muppet
another one.
coaster, I wouldn't put it past him.
That's right. Well, as we wrap up, Matthew, do you have any final thoughts about Waldo or his design or any part of his legacy that you wanted to speak to that we haven't gotten to yet?
I mean, I think the one other thing that gets me is sort of how it influenced like the Henson motion capture system, which I think won an Oscar, like a special technical Oscar.
Oh, that could be right.
Waldo has a wonderful legacy. I
Hmm.
mean, without Waldo, no Oscar.
That's right.
He's not just a Muppet, he's a prestigious Muppet.
He has more Oscars than Miss Piggy does,
Oh yeah. Oh, don't tell that. Don't tell her that.
but the
She
same
will.
number of Oscars as Sesame Street does. So um, I'm just looking to
Okay, so
see the
The Waldo was
year.
sort of the progenitor of the Henson digital performance system, but still, I mean that's the
Certainly.
first big step. And apparently, they still call it a Waldo. The
They
mechanical hand
do.
controls.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, predates the Muppets and will live on in perpetuity, I
Absolutely.
think.
Waldo will live forever in our hearts and in the technology he
Yes.
inspired.
And in the cloud. Well, Matthew, thank you so much. This was really great chatting
Thanks
with
for having
you.
me to talk Waldo with you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. How can our listeners find you if you wish to be found?
You can find me on Blue Sky. Otherwise, really, I'm on the Tough Pigs Discord. Shout out to the mod team. Um,
Always.
I will say I'm also part of Screenhole TV's show VHS, The Void of Horrible Stuff. It is a semi-occurring show where we watch old TV specials and we sort of poke fun at them, sort of like like a riffing experience if you're familiar with Mystery Science Theater 3000 or Riff Tracks, and that's a lot of fun. Basically, that runs whenever you can get four adults to coordinate schedules, which is a
That's
rare
no
and
small
beautiful
feat.
thing. No, it is not. It's a rare and beautiful thing. But you can find me on that. Screenhole TV, I believe, has its own Discord server. Again, on Blue Sky, and you can read my stuff on Tough Pigs.
Excellent. Well, if people listening to this haven't done so already, they absolutely should. And this was really wonderful. Thanks for talking Waldo with me.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And here's Joe with the outro.
70 Years, 70 Muppets, More Muppets Please is a Muppet fan podcast presented by ToughPigs.com. Hosted by a myriad of people and edited by them as well. Produced by Joe Hennis. The Muppets 70 logo is used with permission by the Muppet Studio, with thanks to Danny Iglesias, Frank Reifschneider, and Lee Slaughter. Don't forget to follow ToughPigs.com on all social media platforms, and you can support us by heading to patreon.com/toughpigs or by buying merchandise at tpublic.com/toughpigs.